So, Meteor, LXJS, hello. I am Ollie Ziller, and I'm going to talk to you about Meteor, which is a full-stack JavaScript framework that lets you do awesome fast. It's allowed me to build real-time reactive web apps in a day. How can I stand here and spout such ridiculous nonsense? I've been organizing Meteor London, which is the oldest, the currently second largest. We're in a bit of a rivalry with the New York meetup. It's quite difficult to beat the San Francisco meetup. We've been doing that since February of this year. It's not just me, it's a whole bunch of these good people. Let me do something about the size of that. So we realized early on that Meteor is a very new framework, and finding expert speakers to come and present to an assembled user group was going to be pretty difficult, and I don't think I trust anyone at the moment who claimed to be a Meteor expert. So we realized that a better way to work it would be to encourage people to build something. We gave the deadline, we gave people a month to build a thing, and in your spare time, tinker away, and then come and show it off and talk about it. And that way we could all learn a bit more about how Meteor works. And so I'd never organized a meetup before. My history is like years and years of Java development, a little dabbling with Scala, and then just getting really fond of doing front-end stuff because of the immediacy and somewhat more simple. So having never organized a meetup, I thought, what should I do? I'll just panic. That's my usual mode of operation. I've been panicking about this for about 6 months now. And then I thought, well, okay, build a demo. What's interesting about this universe of Meteor? Well, this whole real-timey reactive thing. And then the things that were going through my head before organizing a meetup were, will we have anything to talk about? Like, will anyone have done any work? Or worse, will I be sat in the pub on my own looking like a fool? And so then that gave me the idea for my first Meteor app. I've got a clicker. That's what we do, show and tell and now. We meet up, build a thing, compare notes. The idea for my first Meteor app was, okay, if I'm going to be sat in this pub hoping people turn up, wouldn't it be really nice if there was a real-time map that showed all the people that were going to attend this meetup, and I could watch them slowly converge like zombies coming to talk about Meteor. Or I would at least know that no one was going to turn up and I could just drink a pint and go home. And so what was fun about building this, obviously, like, we've all seen pins on maps. That's pretty common. In fact, that's my day job. I put pins on maps for a living. So this was obviously like a shoe-in for my first Meteor demo. But what was more fun about it was this time the pins would update live. And that was immediately entertaining. You know, we got on a bus, we went to the meetup, myself and Alan. We had GoTo running our mobile phones, and we were sat on the bus, and he had an iPhone and I had an Android, and the pins were racing each other along the road, and his iPhone was always slightly more accurate than my Android, and I don't want to reinforce any stereotypes, but that happened. And the most exciting thing for me was, with no Meteor experience, I was able to take this idea of please don't let me be alone in the pub to an app deployed in one day and less than 200 lines of code. If that's a link to the GitHub, giving away my secrets. That's a link to the GitHub, and it's now more than 200 lines of code because I've been tinkering with it since. But this talk is demo heavy, and let's see. If anyone is on a laptop or a mobile and you want to try and go to goto.meteor.com, we will see if we can't torch the Wi-Fi. This hasn't been optimized at all, so it is throwing all of the data at all of the clients all of the time. So it may just like fry the network. But if anyone wants to go to goto.meteor.com, we might see some pins appear. We might not. Pins. Oh, pins appearing live in real time. 3, 4, 5. Oh my God, it's amazing. So what's exciting is that if you were to like not all be sat down really statically in front of your laptops, and in fact you were running up and down the streets, you'd see those pins move to their locations, following you around. It's like opt-in browser geolocation-based tracking, and it's not creepy at all. But okay, so the really exciting thing about this particular thing, oh God, oh blimey. The really exciting thing about doing live pins is that, of course, you can just put your phone onto a quadcopter. And then you've got a really budget homebrew version of GPS tracking of a drone. So that's GoTo running on my mobile phone. And that's GoTo running on a mobile phone on a drone. This is a low-budget homage to all of the good work that Mr. Nesbitt's doing. So this was like the simplest thing I can think of that could work. That's what happens. That's always what happens. So enough credit to Alan Shaw for putting up with my ridiculous idea for strapping my phone to a drone. So pins moving in real time. So you can see when you've suddenly got access to a framework that makes real-time really simple, that makes this kind of reactive style programming, this event-driven, share the data style of programming really simple, you can take ideas that we've seen a million times before, like pins on maps, and suddenly they're just that much more exciting. So I was feeling pretty pleased with myself. I'd started a meetup, and I'd done a demo, and people liked it. What my ego wasn't prepared for was Alan's Blackboard demo, which seems like it's the Hoodie guys are doing amazing work, and you should also check out Hoodie. But it seems that we're coming up with the hello world of real-time frameworks. So what we discovered was that people were just endlessly fascinated with real-time drawing. And if you go to blackboard.meteor.com, you will see the madness unfold in front of your eyes. So this is very similar to the earlier demo. It's basically a collection of point data and rendering to canvases, but we're all rendering to the same collection. And Meteor is doing all of the plumbing code to share the changes to that collection. So someone's pressed a clear button, so we're now unraveling, which is nice. But you get it. We've seen this demo already today. With more beautiful colors, more abstract art. This was a bit minimalist. So, and of course, I built this GoTo demo. I was really chuffed with myself. And then Alan just sat in the pub next to me for an hour and built Blackboard in 50 lines of JavaScript, which blew me away. And blew everyone who turned up away. And so everyone left talking about Blackboard, and GoTo was forgotten. And because things like this happened, we propped an iPhone, because of course Alan is a professional, not just some mic-wearing lunatic like me. And so he made sure that it worked on mobile, and we propped the iPhone up on the bar, and an unseen artist somewhere did this beautiful work of art. And people just watched it appear out of nowhere and was kind of baffled. And we watched an artist create this work of art from some unseen location. We discovered that there's like a missing etiquette for collaborative drawing, because what tends to happen is if you've got multiple people drawing to the same surface simultaneously, eventually someone's going to do something that you disapprove of. And what we found was, when it got later into the night, people would start just crossing other people's drawings out and writing no. There was genitalia, there was swear words, there was all the things that you would expect. But again, so the mind-blowing thing about this for me was how quickly we got it going. So that was when I was like, oh, there is something to this new style of building things that Meteor allows. And so then we got into this kind of role. We did the meetups every month. We pushed it out to the community. We were like, please just, if the best way to learn this is not to have experts come and talk about it, but to build things, to go away. You've got a month. I know we've all got lots of work to do, but so then we were then obliged to generate demos every month as well, because it's no good saying, hey, community, build stuff, and then turning up with nothing as the organizer. So then we ended up with what I thought was the actual hello world of real-time demos, was Askify. And Askify uses, so Meteor does allow you to use NPM modules. So I wrote a module called Askify, which takes plain text and makes it more awesome. Also, of course, hides your message from anyone who might be eavesdropping, because it's just line noise, just beautiful ASCII art line noise. So if anyone wants to try, there you go, nice, waving, beautiful. So it's the same principle over and over again. It's what happens when in the client side, we've got access to a shared collection. Yeah, try to keep it clean, everybody. All right. And don't forget, you can change your font. Right, there's all kinds of amazing fonts. Oh, man. Oh, where's the good ones? Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, anyway, you get the idea. Yeah, go nuts. You can keep chatting. And, of course, we added chat rooms in, like, 2 lines of code. Like, it was exciting. Then we sort of get comfortable with this new medium, this ability to share data in real time without having to write any of that plumbing code. And so once I get comfortable with something, then I'm like, oh, what else can we do with this? So behind the scenes, there's Mongo on the server side, but you don't really have to think about it. You don't install Mongo. By installing Meteor, you've got access to Node and Mongo and SockJS and handlebars and all the things. So we got, this was a few months ago, and we just heard about Get User Media, and that was the exciting thing. So we built this thing that uses Get User Media, and if you want to go to foam.meteor.com, what it's doing is it's taking the input from your webcam, rendering it to canvas, encoding it to a data URI, and storing it in a collection as a big long string, and then sending it back using SVG to render it so you can get a nice rounded clipping mask. And of course you can pop bubbles as well as creating them. It's ridiculous. So if you want to make like novelty web apps, the best way to do it is to start a meetup for a real-time framework. It's endless fun. Go nuts. I got all day. All right. Shut up. The problem is I've got this running in like 15 screens and it makes noise, so that's not helpful. I am going to have to find this and kill this now. Okay, good. So you get it. What was fun about that was we are totally abusing the database in that sense. We're using a terrible encoding format, but we just thought, oh, I wonder if that's possible. And this is the recurring theme with using Meteor, is that I'm no longer thinking about plumbing code. I'm no longer thinking about, should I use this framework or that, or should I use that technique or this and that. It's more an exploratory kind of thing. Like now that I've got access to the Get User Media, now that I can see pretty faces, oh my God, I can't believe I left that on. Anyway, so we've been building demos for a really long time. So by now you've seen the kind of things that having shared collections, share all the things, reactivity by default gets you. So how does it work? That's all good, demos, but I want to build a thing. So a little background. Meteor is a full-stack JavaScript framework. So whereas everyone's heard of Angular, everyone's heard of Ember, they're going to give you some structure for your front-end code. They're going to tell you to put your controllers in your controllers and your models in your models and whatnot. And then they're going to do a lot of front-end plumbing for you. Well, okay, so Meteor's got a chunk of that, and it's pretty simple. But it also does the back end. So where something like Express is going to let you define some routes, or Rails is going to CRUD all the things on your behalf. So Meteor's spanning both sides of the fence. And by handing that over to Meteor, here's a trade-off. You've got less control, but they've made some contentious decisions. It sort of touches on Errol's idea of, let somebody think about the things and do it well. Design being a thing. So full-stack framework saves you some choices. And out of the box, it's reactive and real-timey. So without having to write any additional code, your user interface will change as the database changes. So you still have to write your templates, you still have to design your user interface, you still have to refer to a thing called a collection. If you've done any Mongo before, that's straight borrowed from the Mongo terminology. But this is wild, like out of the box. And it's a nice modern framework to use. It does all of the niceties that you might expect. So batteries included, your CSS and JavaScript are munged or concatenated and minified as the more technical term. And also, Meteor processes your HTML templates, so it's able to do sensible cache rules and versioned URLs of all the resources for you. Also super hot is everyone's probably heard of Live Reload, and you have to get the browser extension, and you have to make Grunt with the extra option to do the live reloading. But once you get it working, it's like, yes! Now I never have to press the refresh button in my browser ever again when I change a CSS rule. And you've saved yourself like 12 milliseconds for every change, and it's brilliant. So Meteor has that out of the box with no plugins. It monitors your files for changes, and it will refresh the browser. Well, it won't refresh the browser. It'll force punch your file changes into your app. Hard code reload is a nicety that it's hard to live without. The most important thing to take away from this talk about Meteor, not creepy licking of bowling balls, but Meteor keeps it really simple. This is a framework that has sort of pathologically focused on the user experience of getting going. Like, you're a new developer, this is a new framework. Pretty much every framework I've ever used has got, like, it offers so much like will be done for me once I've meditated on the rules and regulations of using the framework. Once I've finally fully stored all of the framework's nuances in my head, then I can be super productive. Whereas my experience with Meteor has been they've done an amazing thing. They've managed to keep it simple from the get-go. So getting started is really simple. You're 4 commands away from your first Meteor app, assuming you've never installed Meteor. They've got the hipster curl install, so you have to run a shell script straight off the internet, which your sysadmin will tell you is a terrible idea. I ran it, my computer still works, and I got Meteor out the other end. So you can read the shell script if you're worried. So then you end up with the Meteor command available to you, and that has such niceties as create. And that will create a new working Meteor project with an HTML file, a JavaScript file, a CSS file. And they end up looking very much like just a front-end application. Similar to the Hoodie proposal, you focus on the front-end experience, and from the get-go, you're created just a boilerplate standard app that has nothing more than a kind of hello world. And then you end up with the Meteor dev server. So by running Meteor from within the project you just made, you will have a working application that you can start editing. Sharing data is simple. I did most of the humorous additional slides late last night, so I'm still finding them quite entertaining. Sharing data is simple. So what do I mean by this? Well, I've just installed Meteor. What have I got? I've just been given Node, Mongo, handlebars, sock.js, but I don't have to think about any of that. It just exists. What I've got now is a collection. And so in the front end, I can create a new collection for my things, and I can insert a thing. And of course, a thing is a wonderful JSON document. Well, a JavaScript object at this stage. It will become a JSON document stored in a Mongo collection, but you don't have to think about that. It's all front-end code. It's nice. So you insert your thing, and the magic then is the plumbing that Meteor does. It will transparently sync that with the real collection in a Mongo instance running on your server side without you having to do any extra work, which is nice. Reactivity is simple. He's a real reactionary. So assuming that you want to have a beautiful list of all the things, you make your very standard, if anyone's ever seen any handlebars, that's basically the pro forma do a list. So you end up with a template, and it's got a name. It's called the things. And then in your JavaScript code, you can refer to the things template. You can add a helper to it called all, and that helper will return what it finds in the things collection. So the magic part is by using this helper function on this template, Meteor and its magical depths package will watch the data sources that your function uses to return the data. So this happens within the scope of a reactivity context, as they call it. Basically what it's doing is just watching which collections, which reactive data sources your function needs to use in order to return the value. And with that model, it's then able to present this kind of reactive contents, which basically means that function will automatically rerun anytime the contents of that collection changes. If someone inserts a new thing into the collection, if they insert their marmot, then you will then, in the front-end code, in my client, I will see the new thing appear. No boilerplate. Really, really nice. And some other tricks up its sleeve. Yeah, similar, again, to the Hoodie goal. Why do these things need to be so complex? I'm assuming, hands up if you really enjoy doing OAuth for Facebook and Twitter and all the things. Oh, no one's put their hand up. Yeah, thought so. So Meteor's got this kind of packaging system. They call them smart packages. Fancy name. But basically what it boils down to your experience is you can say Meteor add package Twitter. and then you can say Meteor add accounts UI. You get a button in your web app. You get the handlebars magic string called login buttons. You put it in your app. You click it. It says, well, Twitter auth is not configured. Click this link. Go get your key. Paste it into this form. OK? Now you can have users authenticate with Twitter. It's freaking awesome. So I think that's probably one of the magic tricks up Meteor's sleeve that you should totally check out. I'm not going to do demos of that because, yeah, that's authentication. We don't need to spend any time looking at that. Deploying a Meteor application is really simple. You've built it, you love it, but it's all local host. Now I want to share it with a load of people at LXJS. I type Meteor deploy goto. So that was how I got the goto app deployed. And whatever app name you give your application becomes a subdomain of the Meteor site. They are dog fooding this process, so the docs site, docs.meteor.com, that's a Meteor app. And then you can go to your URL, and it works, and it all takes a few seconds. I noticed a bug in my slides while I was sat down there panicking, and I took a punt, and I redeployed some of my demos while I was sat there. So it's really fast, and seems to be reliable. If you can do it live on stage, you can do it anywhere. So the magic of Meteor, like to really focus in on what I think is the trick that they've pulled. Like, put a database in the browser. We've got local storage, we've got IndexedDB, but, you know, everyone's railed against like the limitations and problems, but to just paper over the cracks and put a usable like replica of what we might think of as a database in the browser, to paper over the cracks. So Meteor's developed Mini-Mongo, and that runs in the browser. It's just an in-memory. It provides the same API as Mongo does in the browser. So you have one API for accessing data to learn. It follows the Mongo API, so you've got collection.insert, collection.update, collection.delete, blah, blah, blah. And that's all you have to think about. So previously, in any traditional framework, your data access would probably boil down to thinking about which particular REST endpoint you might have to go and call, receiving a JSON document, parsing it, putting it in a model, doing something sensible. And then on the server side, you might have a Mongo, you might have a Couch, you might have a MySQL. You've got to think about an entirely different database API to what your client side would have to do. If you throw all that away, that thinking, and just replace it with, what if we make the front end as similar conceptually to the back end as possible, then things get interesting. So this database everywhere concept, Mongo API on the client and server, means you get situations like the user will interact with their local slice. You use publish and subscribe to reduce the data set that you send to the client. So you don't have to spam them with all of the things. You can just send them the relevant slice of the data that is relevant to them. And so when they press buttons, create things, update objects, they are changing their local database, which is why you get that nice simple API where your front end has a things collection and you can change it. What that allows is, you're changing local state, local to the browser, so it's fast. It's practically, it's synchronous. I change the database is changed. Meteor then synchronizes that to the back end for you. And the happy path, we assume everything's successful, will then fan that out as a data diff, as JSON over the wire, to all other connected clients. It's cool. It's a really nice way of thinking about web apps. And so this is what they term latency compensation, or act local, sync global, as I pithily put it. Users see their changes instantly. This is like how they do latency compensation. So you've got 1,000 connected users all doing stuff. The server might be like halfway around the world. Well, they still feel like they're working against a responsive, snappy application. It's really nice. And then, server pushing changes to everyone. Brilliant. So test your ideas. The point. I think for me, what Meteor's allowed me to do is to stop getting involved in really boring arguments about like which unit testing framework I could use and which data storage system I should use. And it allows me to just have fun as being a web developer again. It allows me to test ideas. And the more contentious version of this slide was going to be, it is more important to test your ideas than it is to test your code. But I didn't want to be the guy who recommended you don't test your code. So what I mean is, I think a lot of people in this profession are obsessively focused on the details. And that's a good thing. That's why we're good at our jobs. That's why we spend money to come to conferences, to learn more, to talk about these things. But it can mean that if you haven't tested your idea before you go down that path, before you're in this kind of tunnel vision, must choose all the best things, must do this right, must argue with my friends who I actually care deeply about, but then get in these like ridiculous technical arguments with and tell them they're wrong and table flip and storm off. Before that happens, because it's going to happen, because that's how we develop things, I think. Before that happens, you should just get something out there. You should try the idea. And so that's what I feel Meteor has allowed me to do. I'm now not thinking about the nuances of the architecture before I've got something working, before I've had a chance for people to try the thing. And so that's what I did. And, I dog fooded it. So I thought, well, if Meteor's so simple, why wouldn't I do my whole talk as a Meteor app? And so I did, and maybe this will work. Come on. Where is it? So basically what's going to happen now is I'm going to ask you to go to LXJS. I would recommend doing this on a laptop, maybe not a mobile phone. But if you're on a laptop, go to lxjs.meteor.com. And what we've got here is the actual talk is a Meteor app. So we're using this like reactive power. We're using some D3. D3 is a really natural companion. And what we're seeing is a circle. It's the most boring D3 graph anyone's ever seen. But it's amazing. It plays coins. Oh my God. So okay, good. Thanks, 23 people. Pretty frickin' awesome. So what's happening is, as everyone comes online, you're getting put in a collection. We're making a user object about you. The collection is being synchronized with the database. The database is pushing changes out to all connected users. Hopefully you are all flicking forward to the graph page, and you are seeing a circle increase in size, or maybe you're just trying to load lots of really high-res images of the Big Lebowski. I don't know. I can't tell. But the point being, I was so confident that this kind of thing is the way to do things, that you can just make anything an app now. It makes life really simple. D3 is a natural companion to Meteor. Once you've got a graphing library that gives you primitives that know how to deal with real-time transformations to graphs, instead of just, how do I draw my scatter plot? D3 is much more kind of low level than that, and it's more like, here's a set of data points, here's a set of representations of data points, how should I transition them when the data changes? Well, Meteor providing this reactive nonsense means that you finally got a framework that can power D3 in the way that it was meant to be, and see graphs update. So there you go. You're in a shared collection. As other users come online, the collection grows. The graph updates as the collection changes. Ta-da. So that's mostly the end of my talk. It was largely coded by Mr. Shaw, and I'm dubiously taking some credit for it. The slides are all my own work. It's all up on Meteor. It's all deployed on Meteor. It's all available on GitHub. And you should come to the Meteor London meetup. Or you should think about starting one in Lisbon. I had a chat with the Meteor team. I'm not employed by Meteor to say all this waffle. I just enjoy using it. But they are fairly receptive. They're sponsoring this meetup, this conference, and they'd be super happy to set up the meetup, which is really expensive. I don't know if you've ever set up a meetup, but it's like 70 quid to run it for 6 months. But they'll pay for it because it's in their interests, and it's a good thing. And I found that the best way to learn Meteor, the best way to give myself a monthly rolling deadline was to set up this meetup. And it got me invited to this. And so I would highly recommend, if anyone wants to set up a meetup, they should email them or come and talk to me. So that is pretty much the end. I hope you're all still... Ah, come on. This is the bit where I disappear. Ah, well, it always works on the night. Kaboom! I'm out.